So we're going to go ahead and we were just talking about going back to finding the targets again. I think we've been processing your answer, and you've done, I feel as though you've done some hard work around that, and yet feels like we might need to refine that, as you just mentioned. So I'd like to just go ahead and start with, if you're open, to tell me a time, some way you feel limited in your present life, and a current symptom or issue you'd like to focus on.
So, yeah, my current, and it's really interesting right now that my answer is really present in, so it's, I think of sometimes answers coming up like in the moment, but also over like more drawn out. My answer, or something that's limiting me, is just being very much in my head and cut off from my heart. And like, so feeling kind of frozen in just doing what I need to do. And so the way that I feel limited is, let me think about it for a second. I think it's like trusting myself emotionally to know how to like get through something. Like feeling safe in trusting myself emotionally. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Let me see. Can you tell me a time that would be an example of how that shows up in your life socially?
Yeah, so yesterday, I wanted to go to this Jewish food festival, and I'm Jewish, and I don't practice a lot, but I guess it's still part of me, and I had told my friends about it last week, and then yesterday they chose to go to a taco festival that I was just like, I went to the taco festival parking lot, and then it said it cost $12 to get in. And then I left and I went by myself to the Jewish food festival, and so I was like, just like questioning myself a lot, like, I'm kind of sad that they chose this instead. Should I tell them about it? What's the point of telling them that I feel sad? Is there a point? But just that process of feeling like damned if I do, damned if I don't, and not knowing what's the right move for me to make. And then deciding not to say anything.
Okay. How about intimately?
Oh boy. Let's see, present moment. So yeah, let me think about that, because I think so are we looking at when I've tried to do this and I haven't succeeded?
Well, yeah, well, I think trusting yourself, and what I hear in this is trusting myself, needing something and reaching out, but having mixed feelings, not knowing, damned if I reach out, damned if I don't. So a situation in which you feel as though you felt like you needed to do something, wanted to do something outside of you indicates something else, and then you get, you know, the others outside of you, it's invalidated. And for you, then you question it and get doubtful or confused or conflicted. I'm not quite sure which words I'd use, but I guess it's being able to, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the Jewish festival. My friends wanted to go tacos. I go to tacos, you know, and you wanted, it sounds like you wanted them to be with you. You wanted to go, yeah. And then you backed off. So it's wanting something from and needing something and then backing off. Does that make sense? So, you know, I can see how we'll, yeah. So if you think about that intimately, you know, this kind of gut feeling that I need something, I want something, and then you don't trust it, you back off based on other people's responses.
Yeah, and then I think with intimately it shows up a little differently, because rather than backing off, sometimes I'll get critical instead of like staying with that need.
Okay.
And so last night, an example is I sent Casey this podcast about like consent and kind of how intricate it gets. And it was this woman talking about her experiences with men applying pressure on her. And I realized after I sent him the podcast was that what I really was hoping for was that we could have a conversation about like, usually when we talk about this stuff, it's like kind of like it's out in the world, but not as much about us. And I wanted us to be able to look at that, like the pressure that exists in our own relationship. And he did talk about that, and I was like, so I guess that was an example of it working. But where it didn't work was that then he started talking about times that he had been pressured by women. And I was having this reaction to this where I like wanted him to make more space in the conversation for my experiences, partially because I've heard him tell all these stories before, and I didn't know how to do that. But so this is where I'm getting confused with this concept, because I didn't trust myself totally, because I was like, well, maybe this is valid too, but then I was like, this is just like him taking up a lot of space in this conversation, and I feel like what I need is for him to ask me about my experiences. But I waited until he was finished, and then I told him how I felt. And then what I really I guess what I wanted to do was for him to say, tell me about you, but he didn't. And then, so I just said I had to go. But that seems like an answer, right? Like just like closing off.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of a time when I tried. But it was, I guess I was trying when I was telling him, like, this makes me feel. Yeah, I think it was, my answer came in after. I was trying to express, like, some sense of, like, what I need.
What did you say to him?
Huh?
What did you say about what you needed?
I said, actually, I didn't say what I needed. I said, this is hard for me because it feels like you're trying to equalize the experiences. And I've heard these stories before. So I didn't say what I needed. Okay, let me think of a time when I said what I needed. God damn it.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's an example, because it's like, you needed to talk and it was just really hard and you got confused. And then the answer comes after it, but that's an example of needing something, but based on what he needs, you said, well, I get critical or capitulate. I mean, it's the same thing. Like I wanted to go to the Jewish festival. They wanted tacos. So then I backed off. I mean, that to me is an example of what happens when you're not validated or not, somebody, yeah.
Yeah, because I can't validate myself enough to be authentic, but like assertive about it. Like, no, I really need this.
It just makes sense to me, but there might be something I'm missing. But you're looking for an example of how this shows up in your life.
I would say let me try to think of one more with him. It's interesting. I'm actually thinking of one time that it did work recently to say what I needed, and then he responded really well. But I think last night is an example.
Okay. How about at work?
Well, I don't feel like I express my needs at work. I mean, I do, but I feel like I'm kind of autonomous in a lot of ways. Having a hard time thinking of one at work. Okay, well, I'll choose one that's not about work, but that's with a coworker. I have this coworker that I like, but I don't know very well. And she keeps invalidating things that I tell her about myself. For example, like the highly sensitive thing. She said, "You're not highly sensitive." And I was like, "You don't know me." And then also I talked about having avoidant attachment. And she said, "You don't have avoidant attachment." I was like, have you been in an intimate relationship with me? So I guess it's not really expressing a need, but it's expressing something that feels true emotionally to me. And like wanting to share that because it feels vulnerable, and then having somebody just say, "No, you're wrong." And then I start like questioning, like, what does she see that I don't see? Does that seem to fit?
Yeah. Yeah, you're being vulnerable. I just thought of avoidant attachment. I mean, would that be called an answer? And so you're wanting validation for your answer. So then I was thinking, the way in which you cope. Does that make sense? So it's, let me think through.
Okay, I think I actually have a better one. So running group with the kids.
Because you needed something from her. There was something else about a need you needed from her. Yeah, go ahead. It just clicked for me. Go ahead.
Running group with the kids and staff, and I am trying to run this group that has like a really vulnerable feeling to it, and it's this kid getting a letter from her mom about like why she's in the program, and she reads it in front of the students. And I had a lot of experiences in wilderness where that was like a really powerful time for the group. And this time I tried to say what the group needed. And there's also like a piece of it for me that it's about how well am I doing as the therapist of the group. And it was just like crickets. Like the kids were not there, and the staff also, 2 of the staff were new, and I had to really prompt everyone to participate. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like my heart is in this, and it's telling me that we need these different pieces for this group to be meaningful, but it did not seem to be landing.
So what was the need under that?
For other people to be emotionally present, that I expressed to the group.
Because you had expressed that and wanted to cultivate it, and it's not. So, okay. All right. The way I go with that is like, is there a need for acceptance? Is there a need for?
It's probably, there's like a need. I think it's a self-esteem thing, because I have been personalizing what does it mean about me as a therapist that the group is not in this place, where I know like some of the other groups on campus are, or like what does it mean about me that I think I feel like stuck in like how to create that. Like how do I see what's missing and ask, and I can feel it in my heart, but then how do I like ask for it and invite it in the other people?
Yeah. Because if they're not doing it after you've invited it, what does that mean, I guess?
It means that either that I'm wrong in how I did it, or, well, that's what I tell myself, or that it's like I'm missing something. That's my answer. That's what I tell myself.
Exactly.
So, but I think that's a good example because I did what's hard for me, which is what is naming what I'm feeling and seeing, but then it didn't work. It was like pulling teeth.
Right. Okay. All right. As you bring up the worst part of this issue, what is the worst part of it now?
Well, my my mind went back to, okay, because I went back to a memory, but let me think, what is the worst part of it now is feeling a genuine feeling inside and then feeling like I'm wrong, like that I need to temper it or like get rid of it or something like that.
On a scale, how disturbing is it now on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being no disturbance and 10 being the highest you can imagine?
I would say a 6.
When you bring up this disturbance, what is a negative belief you have about yourself now?
I'm too much. Would that be one?
When you bring up the worst part of the present issue in the words, I am too much, what is an earlier time you can remember experiencing something similar?
So I think I was probably about 8 or 9. I made my mom this like, no, I was younger. Maybe I was 7, and I made her this Mother's Day gift that was like, it was something we made in school and everybody did it, but I remember like putting a lot of energy into it. And I just had this fantasy that when I gave it to her, she would feel all the emotions that I was feeling about how much I loved her, and that she would be overwhelmed and she would cry. And because I wanted her to feel that much love. And then when I gave it to her, she was just like, thank you. And I just remember feeling that, like, the distance between what I thought would happen and what happened, and feeling like I didn't know why.
So it's interesting that you wanted her to feel that much love. I mean, it sounds like you needed to feel that much love.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you interpreted, since she didn't respond, it's okay. Just want to make sure. Okay. And what is an earlier time?
I'm having this memory come up of my sister and I got into a fight, and I made her this card and made these little doors on it, and like for her to open, and it said open the doors of happiness, and then there's like us together inside. And I think I was like so proud of it and so sorry, and I just wanted resolution. And then I can't remember if, I think she really liked it, but I think maybe my dad didn't have the reaction that I wanted him to have, like that's so sweet, or I don't know. It was like kind of that wah wah.
Mm-hmm. And how old do you think you were?
I think I was maybe 8 or 9, so it might have been a little older.
When you think about that memory, when you think about what you might have needed and what wasn't given to you, what were you needing?
I was needing like praise and like some affirmation of like, this is like really important that you were able to be like so forgiving and like kind of like leading the way with resolution, even though I was the youngest.
So do you think that the praise and the affirmation, even the, for the forgiving and resolution, might have had something to do with the fear of the connection, might have been that the attachment piece, that, that need for the praise and resolution is the anxiety around not the need for feeling safe attachment with your sister after a fight? And then,
You mean from my parents?
and your parents, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Oh, like the card. No, the card was really, I think, coming from a genuine place of like, I don't think it was anxiety driven as much as just like, I feel really sad that we got in this fight and I want to make up.
okay.
But I think it was like my parents' reaction that I was needing.
So the praise part was more about the need. I guess I'm looking at what the thwarted need in the expression, yeah. Of
It's like, I was like showing them the card to be like, isn't this great that I did this? And then what I get back doesn't say that.
mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so whenever I hear the word great though or praise, it's that there's something underneath it about something's not safe. I need, if things are great and safe, that's the answer. It's more of a, you know, I get the accolade and you really want to make sure things are okay, I guess. I mean, that's, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of, you know, kind of it's like, look at the exit sign. There's something about it when, you know, my dad didn't respond or react. It's like he might respond, react, and say, you know, about the card, but to me, that's about attachment and safety. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter how good you are and how, you know, great your cards are, you know, you could still doubt, am I good enough? I don't know. And I don't know if I should even be going on this line of questioning, but I just wanted to kind of look at that.
Well,
because your sister liked it, but your dad didn't. Needing the praise and the affirmation. So there's an authentic apology, and you know, desire for resolution, but your dad didn't react.
so are you saying that you think we're going towards my answer instead of?
No, I'm just pointing out that I think that needing the praise and the affirmation is the answer, and that the need is connection. The need is, I'm enough. I'm not too much, I'm enough, or something. I mean, I probably shouldn't.
Right, okay.
So just staying with, when there's something that you need or need validation for and it's thwarted, you know, you're needing something, but to me that to me seems like a gesture that the absence of your dad's response is what's a real important piece there.
I guess it might be so ingrained though that like when I'm being authentic, or when I look back and I think I'm being authentic, it's actually an answer, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's this time that I was thinking about last night where my dad, we were like in a hotel and we were all sleeping in the same room, and my dad came to say goodnight to each of us, and he asked me if I loved him, and my genuine response was, I don't know. And I think I was around 7 or 8, and this memory is really disturbing to me. And then I heard him like talking to my mom about it for a long time because we were all in the same room, and he was like, I think he said, she's 7 years old, she doesn't know if she loves me yet, and just really distressed and disturbed, even though he had kind of like created the situation. And then the next morning it was like I was like being iced out, basically, like he wouldn't really talk to me. And I was really afraid, thinking like, I was honest, what did I do? what did I do wrong? So I wonder if that would be, to me, that's a pretty clear-cut example of like expressing how I actually felt. I don't know what the need was other than just like being able to be honest. Um, and also to not have to meet his emotional needs. And I was taught that that wasn't okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that seem to fit in that line?
Well, I'm struck that it's certainly really important because it's bringing up a lot of, charge and emotion for you. So I'm thinking it through, feeling it through with you. And yeah, the first thing that came to my mind was that your dad was in need there and that you were set up.
Yeah, so it wasn't that I had a need that I was coming to him with. It was just that I was trying to draw boundaries. So it's kind of different.
Yeah, yeah. For a parent to ask you, do you love me? I mean, there's just something about it that, well, I don't know him or the dynamic, but for you to say, I don't know, and to be authentic. I mean, basically what I see there is that you have a need for your dad to not collapse under the weight of your 7-year-old response, right? And that was really scary.
Yeah, and also it was like, yeah, because I knew I was like being emotionally punished for it, and then my mom had to tend to him, and she couldn't tend to me. And there's a lot of stuff with that, which is in my history, which is related somehow, but it's like, I guess I'm just having, I think there's these two different lines of like being able to authentically express, come to somebody with a need that I have, and then there's another line of like when they're coming to me with a need that's not appropriate, to be able to say no.
Okay. Well, that seems, I think we should go with that. Any earlier time?
So this wasn't earlier, but it's coming up as a memory. I think I was like maybe 10, and my best friend, I think she was like rude to me at school, and we had a fight, and I was asking my mom what to do about it, and my mom said, just call her and talk to her about it. And I didn't want to, and she said that I should. I think I was needing more help than she was giving me, and she thought that we could work it out. And so I called and I said, what should I say about why I called her? And my mom said, just say, did you call me? Because I saw that you called me. And so I called my friend and I said, hi, did you call me? And she said, no. And then I just said, okay, sorry, bye. And I hung up the phone and I started bawling. Like, I was like so embarrassed. And I said to my mom, please don't ever make me do that again. So I guess it was like I was needing help with something. I was needing help sorting it out, and she kind of directed me to do it on my own, and it didn't go well because I didn't have the skills.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just thinking that you needed to sort out your feelings, like for her to be able to reflect back,
Yeah.
what sorting it out. What were you feeling, sensing, what, yeah. Before.
Yeah, there was not, she did not help me organize what was going on.
Yeah. Okay. An earlier time.
Okay, so I would say again, probably like 7. And my cousin Julie came to visit, and I had made a request for to be able to sleep next to Julie because it was like so special that she was visiting. And then so she would sleep in the middle because she and my older sister Naomi and I were all going to sleep in the room together. And not only did she not sleep in the middle, but somehow Naomi slept in the middle and I couldn't sleep next to Julie at all. And I didn't understand how that could happen. It seemed so unfair that like I had actually made a request and then it didn't matter.
An earlier time?
I just had this thought like, wow, childhood is so emotional,
Mhm.
which is good, but it's also overwhelming.
Mhm.
Um, I remember in 3rd grade, so this is not earlier, but um, my 4th grade teacher was like she had some like air traffic controlling experience, and she was going to take us to the tower, and it happened to be Yom Kippur, the day we were going to go, and I was so upset, and I begged my parents to not make me go out of school to go to synagogue, and they were like tough noogies, like nope, but they didn't really understand how upset I was. And but my teacher, when I came back, I found out she had changed the date for me, which was so nice. But I think it was like my parents like not understanding how important it was to me. Or saying like, we'll call your teacher and see what she can do, something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just dismissive.
Yeah.
Dismissive, but even if they decided to continue with it, at least validating what it was like for you to miss out on something like this and try to, talk to you about it. It's just like the rule, right? We're doing a rule. We're not, religious holiday, and you were conflicted. Well, you weren't even conflicted. You wanted to go to that. Yeah, I mean, you're a kid, right? Yeah. Yeah. You didn't want to miss out. Yeah.
Yeah.
An earlier time?
I'm trying to think like no, I can't remember anything. Yeah.
Now I'd like to look at each present trigger and decide how you would like to react, behave, or feel in that situation when or if it happens in the future.
So socially,
Yeah, so yeah, let me see. So yeah, so if you wanted to go to the Jewish festival with your friends, wanted to end up at the taco place, what would you like to do in the future?
so there's a couple pieces. I think I noticed this pattern where, like, sometimes now I won't even realize that something's important to me until I feel hurt. So I do want to say, like, express to them that it matters to me, but the problem is that I didn't even know that last week because I had this kind of habit of being like, go with the flow, whatever happens is fine. Don't take anything personally. But then after it happens, I'll feel hurt. And so I think the first piece is like knowing how I actually feel about something.
Mm-hmm. So stay connected, noticing what's happening inside. Noticing.
Yeah. I'm gonna need to grab my headphones real quick.
Sure.
My housemate just started playing guitar.
Okay.
Hold on one second.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh, are you still there?
Yeah.
I don't know what I did with you. You're gone. That's so weird.
What does your screen look like?
It just says Zoom.
Try on the upper right-hand corner, there's like a different types of views where it
Well,
says
actually,
speaker view or
There's nothing. Hold on. There's nothing. It just says English support.
huh.
I'm gonna just press back.
Okay. Are you on like a web page or on the desktop application?
The desktop.
Oh, maybe you did stop video? I don't know.
Well, it's actually, oh my goodness. It's just weird. It's like there's nothing. I'm gonna just hit this, and if I get disconnected, I'll get right back on.
Okay.
All right. You there?
I'm here.
Okay. I'm probably on twice somewhere, but it just worked.
Oh, can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you did know how important it was going with the flow. So there was two pieces to this. And the first is noticing that it's something you want and it's not happening.
Yeah.
And the second piece is
Being able to say it.
how about as you think about, how you'd like to react, behave, feel in the future with Casey in a situation where you feel like he's not inquiring and curious about where you're at in the conversation and
one really important piece is like, so like when I become critical of him, I create the thing I don't want, which is this further disconnection and then further judgment from me. So what I want to be able to do is stay compassionate towards myself and him, like stay in touch with my heart. And I'd like to be able to honor that I have a need without like in a compassionate way and not a critical way, in a way that's like really kind to myself and not making him the bad guy for not mind reading.
Okay. And how about at work? Like you're running a group and you start to basically kind of really want the group to flourish and be able to do the work. And how would you like to behave, act, or feel in the future in that situation?
Let's see. Just the thought of that group is like, this one is tricky because it's not up to them to meet my need. So,
Go ahead. My desk is collapsing. Go ahead. All right. It's not up to you.
It's not up to them to meet my needs. So I think.
Yeah.
I think it's like tuning into what I'm sensing and not personalizing it. Because I think that leads me to be kind of like, hey guys, what's going on here? And like making it more ego-based. Instead of like being effective. Because I get like kind of judgmental, but also kind of frozen feeling. Yeah. So I think what would I like to be able to do? I'd like to be able to think on my feet more, honestly, like just like, okay, this isn't working. Let's try this. Instead of like personalizing it.
So when I'm looking through this, looking back, the touchstone would be the Mother's Day or wanting to sleep next to Cousin Julie.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. I have these like weird urges to like look things up on my phone that there's no way to look up. Just because you can look so many things up now. Like, which happened first? Cousin Julie or I think
This is also your dad. And that was 7 to 8.
So that I think feels like a little bit, it's stuff I need to work on, but it's maybe different because it's like boundary setting. I mean, there's stuff that happened in that where I was needed help with stuff and it wasn't addressed, but I would say I think the Julie one was probably earlier.
Mhm. Okay. And the resources that we used were more like grounding, being able to bring yourself back to present moment and breathing.
Staying.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I'm conscious of the time, so it looks like we'll maybe start doing this next session.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask this knowing Deb's going to see it and we can process it when we're all together. But there's a part of me that just keeps thinking that I have a hunch that there's probably another story before 7.
I do too, but I don't know what it is. Like I feel like I was gonna say that at one point. Like it feels like there's more. I can't think of what it is. And then I started going back through what happened in first grade, what happened in kindergarten, did anything happen in preschool? And I wasn't getting anything.
What about before school? Anything, any stories, thoughts, feelings, not thoughts, feelings, but any kind of stories, sensations or urges that go with those stories that you remember. And I don't know if I should go back here right now, but I just am curious, so I thought I'd jump. This is a learning thing for us, so. Around too much.
Well, so I know that my mom had postpartum depression with me only. And I think I drew some conclusions about that. But she always identified it as, I wasn't sad, I just cried a lot. Which tells you exactly what you need to know about her.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sad, I would just stop and need to cry. I mean, maybe she didn't feel sad, but she tends to not feel sad. And I knew it was only with me that she had that.
And knowing that.
It always made me feel bad, like guilty.
So that would be postpartum would be within your first 2 years, right? A year or two?
It was like directly after I was born.
Right.
Yeah.
After you were born, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a touchstone, Susanna.
Okay.
I really
Yeah.
do.
Because like the image that I have with that, which it doesn't even make sense because our house was different at that time, but it's of my mom crying alone in her room and me as a baby just being like, I also had jaundice, so I had to like be under this light when I was a baby. And I know my mom was like, I was the youngest, so she already had these 2 young kids. Then she was tending to me having jaundice. She had postpartum depression.
Yes.
Thanks for asking that.
Yeah. You're welcome. All right, so.
Okay, so I'll end the meeting and then I'll send you the recording after, but then I'll restart.
Okay.
I'll restart the recording. Okay.